This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Maria Taylor alongside Tony Dungy, Jason Garrett, and Mike Florio here to recap what we saw in Week 2. And let's start with San Francisco. Obviously, Trey Lance goes down, so Jimmy Garoppolo, it'll be his offense for the rest of the season as Lance is out with that ankle injury. What did you see as the offense and the team responded to Jimmy G taking back over?
Well, the first thing I saw, Jason, was a team that wasn't panicked. It wasn't like, oh, we've got to go to our backup quarterback and the season's over now. Jimmy came in, he looked very relaxed, and they did some good things offensively.
And most teams in the league are in that situation. Can the backup play? They know this guy can play. They've won a lot of games. He looked comfortable. They look comfortable. They look like they play with a lot of confidence when he went under center.
You know, I never quite know how to use the word ironic, thanks to that Alanis Morissette song, but they held on to Jimmy Garoppolo. Why? In the event that a quarterback elsewhere suffered a serious injury, so they could trade him. There was nowhere to trade him. They decided to keep him. They reworked the contract, and it works out perfectly under the circumstances. Obviously, they don't want to lose Trey Lance for the year, and it's a horrible situation for him. But for the 49ers, this is part of what you had Garoppolo there for. You knew there was a possibility Lance could get injured, either short-term or long-term, and now Garoppolo steps in. Here's my concern for the 49ers, though. Starting next week, Garoppolo, injury history. Brock Purdy, the last guy taken this year in the draft from Iowa State, is the only other quarterback on the roster. They better make some phone calls. They better make a transaction, get somebody who's ready to go if Garoppolo gets injured, because he's been injured several times before.
No, that is a really, really good point. And Jimmy played well, and you expect him to play well, but he's missed games too.
Coach, it amazes me the number of teams that kind of roll the dice on their backup quarterback situation. They say, hey, we're going to save a little money there, all of that. And these things happen. They happen every year. It's a physical game. You have to have a guy who can go in there and help you win games, and then have a developing guy behind that.
It's so interesting that San Francisco goes from one of the teams with the best backup quarterback situation to one of the teams with the least, and that happens with just one injury. But Jimmy Garoppolo came in. He completed his first 5 passes. It was the first time any of us saw him since the NFC Championship game, and he didn't miss a beat. He said it was just like riding a bike. Let's go to the Miami Dolphins and the Ravens, because you can't make up the comeback that they were able to put on, Jason. I mean, we're still trying to figure out and piece it together, but down 21 points in the fourth quarter. That means they had 12 minutes to get all of those points back and then some, and they managed to do it.
I would argue that Coach Dungy is one of the most composed people I've ever met in my life, and he was livid today. There were busted coverages. Miami had a lot to do with it. Baltimore had a lot to do with it. They weren't covering the way they needed to cover and forcing the Miami to do the things they needed to do, but Miami took advantage.
You have to applaud Miami. Mike McDaniel has those guys believing. They stayed in it. They kept fighting even when they were 21 down. But Baltimore, how in the world can you let Tyreek Hill 20 yards behind you twice when you've got a lead like that? I just don't understand it.
Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill becoming one of the best duos in the NFL now.
Oh, absolutely. 10 receptions each, 150 yards plus receiving each, 2 touchdowns each. First time ever the 2 teammates have done that in the same game. Tyreek makes it easier for Waddle. Waddle makes it easier for Tyreek. And you've got Tua Tagovailoa throwing 6 touchdown passes. He's now got a record, and I know quarterback wins aren't a stat, except when you want to make a point based on quarterback wins. Tua is 8-1 against Super Bowl winning head coaches. Don't come out of retirement, Coach Dungy. He'll beat you too.
No, it was certainly impressive. And we looked at even the fourth quarter numbers, 199 yards passing and 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Tyreek Hill, 142 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was just an impressive composure and late game situation play from Tua.
And exactly the opposite from Baltimore.
Yeah.
We didn't see that from them. But, you know, you have to give those guys credit. And I have to say, Tua is taking it one game at a time, because we saw the post-game celebration. He said, oh, okay, we got to get ready for the Bengals. And they play Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah. Oh, did you bring up the Bengals? Well, let's talk about them then. They lose to Dallas. Dak Prescott's on the sideline. Cooper Rush comes in, and ultimately they win on a 50-yard field goal. But let's talk more about the situation that the Cincinnati Bengals are having with Joe Burrow constantly being pressured, constantly being sacked, and they're not able to get their offense going at all.
It was a problem last year. They made a lot of moves to try to fix it. Doesn't look like it's been fixed. And I'm concerned not for Joe Burrow's health, but the fact that I see him now starting to look at the rush. He's back in the pocket, and he's feeling like people are going to be around him. He's scrambling more. And, yes, he can make plays with his legs, but that's not what you want Joe Burrow doing.
Yeah, 3 new veteran players on that offensive line, but it looks the same. And the one thing I would say when you pull back, sometimes you can get enamored with Joe Burrow down the field to Jamar Chase. They make all these big plays. Sometimes you say, we got to quiet this game down. We got to be physical. We got to run the ball. We got to help this offensive line come off the ball and go that way. And then play action. Maybe that's the way you make some of your plays. Too much drop back. They can't handle it up front.
And then today, defensively, wasn't good. And, you know, Dallas is playing with a backup quarterback and didn't look great last week against Tampa. Cooper Rush looked outstanding today, and that's got to be a concern for the Bengals.
Mike, what's happening to the big play Bengals that we know from their run to the Super Bowl a season ago?
I really do think that the changes they made in the offseason, especially the offensive line, they're going to need time to fully gel. They're expecting to pick up right where they left off with their last offensive line, and it's just not happening yet. And Joe Burrow wants to be aggressive. Coach Zach Taylor wants to be aggressive. And I think that was the play against the Cowboys today, because last year on a Sunday night, the Vikings, specifically quarterback Kirk Cousins, was not aggressive when he should have been against Cooper Rush. But if you can't get rid of the football, if you're getting sacked, if you're facing a defense and now 2 in a row that can get after Joe Burrow, that's a problem. And I think some coordinators out there have been studying film from what the Bengals did last year with that patchwork offensive line, and they're taking even more advantage of it.
Let's talk about New England going on the road, taking on Pittsburgh. They walk away with the win. We know that T.J. Watt is out, so pressure on quarterbacks is going to be a thing. But let's talk about Pittsburgh's offense, Mike Florio. Just 2 offensive touchdowns in 2 games. I mean, what differences do they need to make? What is the team talking about? Obviously, this is going to have an impact on them moving forward.
Well, they've got weapons. They've got Najee Harris, who's got the potential to be a great running back. They've got great receivers. Mitchell Trubisky has been okay. The offensive line is suspect. But for the Steelers to win, it's got to be a total team effort with minimal mistakes. And there was a sequence of a couple of plays in the second half that sealed it for Pittsburgh. Cameron Sutton had an interception in his hands that he dropped. That's a lost opportunity for a very opportunistic Steelers defense. And then the muff punt by Gunnar Olszewski. You can't have, if you're the Steelers, you need every break to go your way, and you can't have mistakes like that or you're not going to win football games. And some weeks it'll work, but when it doesn't, you get what happened today.
And Mike, you've been around Steeler football for a long time. I've been around Steeler football for a long time. Franco Harris, Jerome Bettis, Le'Veon Bell, when they're winning Super Bowls, they're running the football. And even these last few years when Ben was there, passing game, little running. They've got to get back to being balanced and get a running attack that can help their quarterback.
It seems like when we talk about all the teams who are struggling, we always go back to, hey, they got to run the ball. But it's true. Yeah. It's true. It takes so much pressure off of everybody. You got a quarterback who you got some question marks about. Take some burden off of him and help your defense as well. And Philadelphia has to reestablish that DNA that's made them be a championship program for a long, long time.
Now, I know after week 1 we had questions about New England's offense. Do we have more or less concerns about them after week 2?
It's still the same concerns to me. They had one big play that they got. They're kicking field goals. Pittsburgh, not great pass rush all day. New England completed some passes, but it wasn't impressive. They won this game by playing sound and not by playing great.
You know, Coach Belichick's teams for years, they kind of figure things out. And I thought today was about that. It wasn't about a great offensive performance. They figured it out. They benefited from the drop punt. They did make a play when they had an opportunity. So that's how they're going to have to win. He talks a lot about identity early in the year. So they're trying to establish their offensive identity up there, and it's a work in progress.
Mike, your thought on the Patriots week 2?
Well, they've got the Ravens next week, so my advice would be let the Ravens build a 21-point lead, and then everything will be fine.
Throw deep.
Throw deep. Let's get into our quick hits, and you guys fill in the blank for me. We'll start with Coach. The comeback that surprised me most today was?
Have to be Miami, because you're playing against a historically good defensive team in Baltimore. You don't expect the Ravens to fall apart like that.
To me, all three of them were crazy. Miami, the Jets, and then Arizona.
Most surprising.
Most surprising to me is Arizona. I thought Arizona was dead in the water. And then, we're up here doing this show, and hey, Arizona's about to tie at the 2-point play with no time
Literally,
left.
best part of the show, though, is you, Coach, like, who won the game? Who won the
Arizona
game? We're
won?
doing the highlights. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Well, for me, it's the Jets. They're down 13 points with under 2 minutes to play. And the stuff that Robert Saleh, their second-year coach, said this past week about go ahead and mock us, we're going to keep track and have receipts. That's for his players. And it worked. I talked to Garrett Wilson about that after the game. It worked. And we see where they go from here.
All right, next question. The 2-0 team that's looked the best is?
I have to say the Chiefs. And Mahomes wasn't great against the Chargers, but the Chiefs' defense is better than we've seen in past years, and that offense is going to just keep improving.
And I agree with you completely. People forget that Kansas City struggled mightily early on in the year last year, and then they got it going. It seems to me that they're off to a somewhat fast start. What do you throw, 5 touchdowns in week 1? I think the Chargers are a good team, and that was a big win for them in week 2. I think they're the best 2-0 team.
Mike?
I agree as well, but I am stunned to see that both the Dolphins and the Giants are 2-0. I'm not as surprised by the Dolphins being 2-0 as the Giants, and we know it's not going to last, but it is surprising to see, of all the 1-1 and 0-2 teams out there, that those two teams are both 2-0.
Speaking of the 0-2 teams, the winless team that's in the most trouble.
I'm not happy with my Colts right now at 0-1-1. They've got to get that offensive line fixed. But the Bengals, the way they're losing games and as much pressure is on Joe Burrow right now, that's just surprising to me for a team that was in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, the one I'm concerned about are the Raiders. There's a lot of anticipation and hope and excitement about the Raiders. They won 10 games last year. It's a tough AFC West. There's some good teams in that division. And for them to let that one slip away today, Arizona coming back, boy, that was a tough one to swallow.
Devonte Adams, you're thinking it feels good. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I'm tempted to say the Bengals, but look, they're only a game behind the other 3 teams in their division, and they will get better. I really am concerned about the Colts. To go back to Jacksonville, where they lost week 1 of the 2020 season. It was the only game the Jaguars won that year. And then they went back at the end of the 21 season with all they needed was a win against a team that was 2-14 entering the game, and they get to the playoffs and they lose then. To not even score a point when they go back to the place where they know they historically have trouble, and the Jaguars aren't a good team, and not score a point. I don't know what's going on with the Colts, but they better turn it around quickly, or there's going to be a lot of changes at the end of the season.
What about the new head coach that's impressed you the most so far?
I'll have to say Brian Daboll with the Giants. Mike McDaniel has done a great job in Miami with Tua and getting him going, but Brian Daboll, I think, has changed the culture and the feeling and the mindset there with the Giants team. No give up in them.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And they believe. They get to the end of the game today. They believe. They had a similar game last week, so impressive. But I'm going to go with Mike McDaniel. I mean, a wild win today, and I think they're the same thing down there. The thing that impresses me so much about Miami is they're so fast, and there's so much air on this football field.
He knows how to use it.
And he knows how to use it. They've done well.
Mike?
Several to choose from. Nathaniel Hackett will not be one of them. But I'll say, sorry, but I mean, it's what we're here to do, right? We're here to be real. I like McDaniel a lot, and also a name I'm starting to hear getting a lot of credit for the transformation of Tua is quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator Darrell Bevell. I talked to Jalen Waddle about that today. There's a sense that Bevell has been instrumental in really pushing Tua to a guy who puts in extra work, shows up early. He's out there going through his plays ahead of time, putting in a level of commitment that we haven't seen in the past. That's Bevell challenging him to do it, and it's working so far.
Yeah, well, all Mike McDaniel has done is beat Bill Belichick and John Harbaugh, even though the Ravens were up by 21 points in the fourth quarter. No big deal, but definitely a new coach that's making waves early. Well, that's it for our Week 2 recap. We certainly hope you'll join us on Football Night in America, Sunday night, 7 Eastern. We'll be here to get you set for our Week 3 Sunday Night Football matchup. 49ers going on the road, taking on the Broncos. We'll see you then.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.